You all set, Patty? I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to identify themselves for the record.
Executive Director.
Mike Shanley, attorney.
Jerry Brown, member.
Kurt Coates. John Kara-Smith, member.
Tom Gillen.
Terry Hamill. We have a couple of items. This is a special meeting. There are a couple of items that we have to do before the end of the month, so we want to deal with this as soon as possible. Tonight we have a guest, Heather Novak from the Acadia Energy Corporation, and she is going to make a presentation about the solar system, the solar paneling, and the solar program that we've been working on. And Zelko has asked her to come and give a presentation so the board better can understand where Zelko would like to recommend that we move. And so I'd like to introduce our guest, Heather Novak. Heather, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So as I said, I'm a technology person who's also a marketing person. So now I don't know every single answer to every question, but I will obviously do my best for you, and feel free to ask any questions that you have. As he said, I definitely explain things to people who don't know anything about solar PPAs, CHP, microgrids. I do this all day, every day. So I'm going to start from the very beginning with basically backing things up. Back to the very beginning of this conversation, because we started having negotiations with Port of Oswego in 2014. You guys actually put on an RFP that we responded to, and we've been working through this for this entire time. So I'm going to kind of back us up to the beginning of the conversation so that you guys can see what you're doing, why you're doing it, how we're going to implement it, and what the overall plan is all together at one time. Okay? So obviously the reason that you guys are doing this is because we have problems with our energy infrastructure, not just here, but all over the United States. But everybody knows that the power lines and the substations and the utilities are basically kind of falling apart. So just in New York State, it's going to cost about $40 billion to upgrade all of that. Obviously none of us want to pay that as a ratepayer, so the governor's office said let's try to find a new way to manage energy from this point forward. So we all know, you guys all know, that energy costs keep going up and up and up. There's no end to that in sight. We know that 10 years from now, we're going to be paying a lot more for energy than we are right now, even though it seems like we're paying a lot. So the system is also a lot less reliable, especially where you guys are, because you are in, kind of an islanded area of the state. You guys only have so much energy infrastructure that actually feeds power to Oswego. There's only so much of that to go around. As you guys get larger and larger, the utility is not going to necessarily be able to provide you the power that you need to be able to do the business that you guys want to do. And if they can provide power, it's not going to be the highest quality power. So, in addition to that, if you guys put these types of energy infrastructure, they help you mitigate storms. Obviously, there's a lot of weather up here. You guys can be maybe not 100% self-sufficient, but you will be able to power things on your own without the grid. So that's an important piece for energy charging. So, and of course, the energy that we're all using today is heavily dependent on fossil fuels. So, the governor's office came down and said you guys have to be, I think, 30% green. So this helps take care of some of those responsibilities that you guys have. So this is where the governor changed everything, where he did his, renewing the energy vision, changing things over to microgrids and localized generation, instead of us having that one big power plant somewhere far away, and then that power finding its way through the power lines to wherever it needs to go, its destination. It's changing things so that there are small localized grids, just like here. If we turn the Port of Oswego into its own self-generating energy source, then this is helping the grid overall. This is relieving, National Grid and NYSEG and all of these other utilities of some of the burden. It actually raises the power quality to the other people who are sharing in that energy, and you guys get the benefit of the best quality power because you're generating it yourself on site. So huge benefits here. Okay, so the good part is the state has been very helpful in creating new localized generation programs, new NYSERDA grants, not just for solar, but for CHP, for wind, for battery storage, for microgrid components, being able to give us different ways to send energy. If you guys have too much energy being created from your solar, there are ways that we can actually remote net meter that to other people in the community and things like that, so that there's no energy wasted. So there's, you know, the state's really going out of their way to make these things happen. So microgrid 101. So a microgrid is a localized, small-scale utility grid, essentially. So you're basically doing the same thing the utility is doing. You're generating energy, you're sending it down a wire so that all of your different equipment can consume that energy. So pretty simple stuff. So it's using multiple types of energy. So it could be solar, wind, different types of generators, different types of battery storage. Then there's a little smart engine. So basically, little meters and computers and software that kind of pays attention to what's going on with all of that energy. And then here's your loads. This is you guys with your buildings and your conveyors and all of your equipment over here. And then over here, you're still connected to the utility. Okay? So there's multiple different types of microgrids, campus microgrids, off-grid microgrids, which obviously we're not talking about that now. Community microgrids and nanogrids. So you guys would technically be considered a campus microgrid because you have multiple buildings that you would all be sharing the same energy sources. Okay? And as you guys grow, the campus microgrid will essentially get bigger. So this is the way that we work. Our business is focused on microgrids, and not just the technology and the engineering, but all of the pieces that are necessary to put an entire deal together. You need somebody that not only can design exactly how big of solar array that you need and how the incentives come together with that, and analytics and what kind of a CHP we're going to put in to match your new conveyor and things like that. You also need, how are you going to pay for all of that? Where can we get grant money? Where can we get additional outside funding? Where can we use different types of incentives, other types of off-takers, as I mentioned before. And then you take all of that together, and then we put the deal together with the legal team. So we're working with your lawyers and our lawyers. We build brand spanking new PPA agreements that have never existed before, using multiple types of energy at once. So not just solar PPAs, but solar, CHP, battery storage, and mixing those types of energy together. And we deal with all of the regulations of PSC and utilities and all the stuff that you guys honestly don't want to do. So, grants and incentives. A large percentage of why we all do this and why it makes financial sense is because NYSERDA gives us a whole bunch of money to do so. So based on your previous usage, they go back exactly 12 months, they look and see how much energy you have used, and then you can put in a certain amount, up to 100% of your usage as a solar installation. So because you guys were smaller than you are now over that last 12 months, we can only go just so big, because we can only get so many incentives. So we basically go through all of these different categories and we figure out which types of financing based on what you guys are doing, what matches, and then we go to a whole bunch of different places. Federal government, DOE, USDA, and we find all kinds of money to try to make some of these things happen. So once we get to the point where we're talking about more than just solar, there's a lot more money on the table from a lot more different sources across the country. So, overall microgrid benefits. Why do we do this? Cost savings. You are essentially buying less electricity from the utility. Because not only are you paying for that commodity, which is, that's the 6.9 cents, I think you guys have it down to. So you're paying 6.9 cents, but your entire payout, the whole payment is not 6.9 cents. You're paying for transmission and delivery, you're paying for different tariffs in addition to that, and you're paying for demand. So demand is that part where you guys have a ship come in, you guys have to turn on a ton of equipment, all the lights come on, everything in the entire complex all of a sudden gets turned on at the same time, and the utility has to provide this huge spike of power. So they charge you for that. They look back 12 months again, and they look to see what your very highest peak demand was. How much energy did we need to provide you at one time? And they say, well, we don't know when you're going to turn on all of that equipment, so we have to keep that in reserve somewhere. We got to bank it somewhere. And we're going to charge you for that. So the average rates up here are like $3.50 a kilowatt, and based on your bills, I looked into that it's actually higher than that. So it's a pretty significant amount of money.
We really got impacted on the last ship. I tell you, I totally miscalculated. I didn't anticipate it. And the margins were thin. By the time the utility company got into it, it really hurt us.
Yeah, it is really tough, especially with all these different incentives, and everybody talks about, you know, go green and go solar and all of those things. But, you know, just one type of energy, especially solar, it only works when the sun's out, which is only during the day. So, you know, there's only so much you can do with that energy when you're talking about trying to mitigate against a demand. So that's another reason why we talk about a mix of energy, so that we can manage the whole energy process. So budget stability, huge, huge benefit of what you're doing. So if you sign a PPA for a certain, it's 9.5 cents, then that rate can be guaranteed with a certain amount of escalation over the course of 20 to 30 years, depending on how long that PPA is. So that's really great for you guys, because then you guys can budget. I know that I'm going to have X amount of energy coming off that solar, coming out of my generation, times that 9.5 cents, or whatever that is, you know, 10 years down the road, and you'll know exactly how much you're going to be charged for that. That's huge for you guys. You know, you don't have to be hedging your bets and signing a deal, hopefully with the utility for that little bit of commodity, and, you know, wondering if they're gonna change your demand rate from $3.50 to $6.50 because they feel like it. So, you know, it really puts a lot more power in your hands. So obviously, like I said, you guys are gonna get premium quality. You guys are gonna be self-generating, so you don't have to worry about brownouts and strange power spikes. You'll know exactly what's going to happen on your side of the meter. So, diversification is what we were talking about tonight, the difference between just a solar plant and putting in, you know, a campus microgrid. So that when you have solar, CHP, other types of energy, so that if the one day that it's so cloudy out, or it's Oswego and you guys have 7 feet of snow on the roof, that the solar's no longer working, that you have another type of energy that you guys can flick a switch on, and that you can still be self-generating. Okay? And obviously it gives you security and surety. If the grid goes down, you guys can still maintain at least a modicum of services up here. Okay?
She had a picture of that, yeah.
So this is what we are specifically talking about. So, you know, we've been up a couple of times talking about solar and CHP, and obviously I've mentioned it again. And this is what solar looks like. This is a very large CHP. We would probably use smaller staged units, probably in 100 kilowatt size, so that we could exactly match what you were talking about. But these energy components are not purchased by you. Essentially, they are owned by the bank. This is not a capital expenditure. You guys are not signing a deal for $1 million to buy this equipment and put it somewhere in your warehouse. That is not the case. So the way a power purchase agreement works is the bank essentially finances all of this, installs all of this, and you pay back to the bank through the amount of money that you are paying for the energy that these sources are generating for you. So at the end of that agreement, it's just like a lease term. There's a buyout where you can just buy it for the dollar and continue using it just as you have. So, 12 months from now, that's a conversation you can have about re-upping, putting in new equipment, looking at new energy plans, just keeping what you've got, selling it off, whatever it is that you choose to do. So, as part of phase 1, we would put in what's called an interval meter. So we would go up, we'd put in 400 kilowatts of solar on the rooftop, and we'd put in a smart meter. That meter is going to monitor your energy usage every 15 minutes for the next year. So that I can tell exactly how much energy you're using in the middle of summer, in the middle of winter, as soon as that big giant ship comes in 2-3 times a year, as soon as you guys turn on your conveyors, I know exactly how much you're using and why. So we can take that data and we can model a phase 2 solution that will come in with the CHP. So we do the solar first, and we do some analytics. We see what all these new changes are that you guys are putting in. We see what that does over the next year. We come back next March with the new solution that either adds to your solar, if it can warrant it, adds CHP, possibly adds battery storage, whatever makes sense to mitigate that demand, to make you stronger, to help you grow, to do all of those things that you guys want to do. So, and obviously over the next year, we'll be able to have these conversations with you. We'll know where you're going at that point, and we'll be able to help make those decisions with you. So, I mentioned the PPA. So this is essentially a corporate structure. It is an LLC that the bank comes in, and there's people who come in and buy the investment tax credits. And then there's the bank that provides the debt. And then there's the people that manage it and all of that good stuff. So it takes care of all of the maintenance. It pays for all of that. We can use local service providers, so if there's a local company that happens to service CHP generators or a local solar installer around the corner who does maintenance, we can use local people, to support that. We also, obviously through the deal, the same people that put the stuff on the roof can come back as well. So there is insurance that is covered through the PPA, so that if something is broken, if something is our fault, if some solar panel is faulty, does something to the roof, there is insurance, and that LLC covers the damage, okay? Now, separate from that, let's say you gave me the example of a leak in the roof. So let's say there's a leak in the roof that is not due to anything that we did, it's not due to the solar panels, it's just because that's what happened. So in that specific situation, we would, the liability, financial liability doesn't necessarily fall on the project, doesn't fall on that LLC. So what would happen is you guys are gonna have your roof people come out, do their assessment, and we will have the solar people come and take down that section of panels. It will not be covered by the LLC, but it will still be managed by the same people that are doing all of the maintenance. So, and then as soon as you guys do all your roof repairs, they'll come back and they'll put them all back up again, okay? So it manages any of the security, NERC, FERC, we don't have to worry about any of these, you guys aren't big enough. And it manages the energy going forward, okay? So going back, so this is these seem to be the main questions that we wanted to go over. Like I said, no capital expenditure. All equipment is paid for just by that energy payment, which you guys are paying on a monthly basis anyway. You're paying it to National Grid. Now you will continue paying to National Grid because you still have to pay them for the demand. You're still gonna have to pay them for the rest of the energy that you guys are consuming. But you will be paying a separate entity for that 9.5 cents for that 400 kilowatts of solar that you guys will be self-generating
That's for the
with.
first year, right? That's for the first year.
Yes.
Then next year, if we decide to go to the next phase,
Yep.
that is one.
Yep, absolutely. So scalability. Obviously you guys are growing. I have been up here a few times, and every time I come, it is crazier and busier up here. So as you guys grow, we can do additional phases, just like we were talking about with the second phase with CHP. There are a couple of ways that we can do that. We can, essentially buy out the PPA and then sign a big PPA that covers them both, or we can just phase in a second CHP / battery storage / whatever that is, PPA for a rate that is specific to that deal, and then it starts again with another 20-ish year term, depending on what's decided, okay? So you guys can always add more energy if you guys keep growing, add more buildings, need more rail heaters, need whatever it is that you guys need to power. So that 9.5 cent rate, it not only offsets the commodity, but the transmission and delivery charges, and some of the demand if all of those stars align, okay? So new technology. So obviously everybody asks, okay, you're gonna put some solar panels on the roof, and obviously new technology comes out all the time, more efficient, things like that. Same thing with, generator technology. So these PPAs do not have, they do not have a place for us to essentially come in and just replace equipment just because. If that's something that you guys did want to do, what we would do is it's sort of like I said to Zilka, you're taking the equity in your house and we're doing a refinance deal. So the LLC would come in, they would look at the CHP generators, if that's what we needed to replace, maybe the solar panels, and we would put in new technology and we'd sign a new PPA. It's almost just like a new face. So you're not precluded from doing it, but most of the time, unless you guys have such huge energy usage that the solar panels up here are not giving you the solar, the offset that you guys need, and the new panels that we could put in are 10 times more efficient, obviously it has to make financial sense. It has to make financial sense for you guys, it has to make financial sense for the bank. So, those are the basic questions that I know I went over with Zelco, and I wanna make sure that you guys understand as well, because honestly, those are the questions we get asked all the time. So,
I have a question.
yes,
The power purchase agreement is defined by a particular area, for example, directly associated with this building. We likely will be operating at another location, maybe 25, 30 miles away. Would you have to develop a separate power purchase agreement for that, or can that be subsumed under the one that you're working on visually here and limited to here, even though we will be operating as something else somewhere else?
so if you are operating as something else somewhere else, would that include its own generation sources as well, as basically doing the same thing that we're doing here?
So you have two.
So that we would have two. So if you guys have, Port of Oswego 2, then we could do the same exact thing that we're talking about here, putting in the solar, putting in CHP, doing things like that. It would be a separate agreement. Based on, because you don't want to be signing an agreement now for something that may happen. And, right. And then down that road, you don't want to necessarily be signing and shrinking the amount of years that you have to, pay in or pay off that equipment through your PPA. So it would, change the dollar amounts that you'd be paying for that energy. So.
And given that example, what about if it's something nearby, a couple of miles away, mile down the road?
It depends on what it is. So if it's just an office building, let's say, you guys are just putting another, operations and, just a building with desks in it, then we wouldn't necessarily be sharing the exact same energy. We would not put a line in the ground and run energy all over to that office building. There are different regulations that we could use, like remote net metering. We could take extra solar that was created on the roof here, and we could, using the utility, basically send that out into the grid against that utility meter. And so we could use that access so that we could offset what the utility was paying for.
I mean, we do have some acreage nearby which we're thinking of developing, warehouses
Okay.
and so forth. And we could possibly transmit to it, or we can do what you just
Yes,
discussed.
well, especially if it's a warehouse,
Yes,
and that actually could work the other way as well. You guys could use that warehouse roof to fill up with solar. You could basically take care of all of the energy needs over there, and then if there's any excess, you can remote net meter it against
So that'd be the
what you
method.
have here. So
okay.
So there are lots of creative ways for us to move energy around.
What if the quality of the technology improves over the next number of years? Would the agreement include revitalizing, changing, modifying, putting the new higher quality stuff in, or you stuck with the old stuff forever?
So,
Let me take
Yes.
over here.
Yes.
We're hearing power storage of solar stuff, right? And
Yes.
you get the stuff upstairs, the thing doesn't work, what happens?
So, we obviously have these conversations all the time. We're actually working on a project down at Teterboro Airport where some solar company came in and put in a bunch of panels, and guess what? They use really crappy panels.
Right.
I can't put it any other way, and they do not produce based on what the financial models say that they're going to
Right.
produce. So now, you guys are getting X amount of kilowatt hours that you're paying for, but it's only, let's say, 2/3 of what it was supposed to be.
Right.
So your payments to the bank are 2/3 of what the bank is expecting, and now the bank is underwater on their own project. So this happens all the time. So we're actually working with the bank right now to go in and put in new, better panels.
Okay.
It's not necessarily because they're new, it's because they are of a specific grade of silicon. That's actually what makes the difference. When you put in panels, there's grade A panels, grade B panels, grade C panels.
Do we have any say in that sort of choice?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'm actually quite sure that the panels that we're using, based on this pricing, are grade A panels. You know, our solar designer is one of the top 10 solar experts in the world. He's been to Dubai, he has written tons of papers on solar panel degradation, on the exact types of silicon. He actually checks every single panel that comes in with a little loop magnifier to make sure that they fit his quality standard. That's his kind of his baby. So when we have conversations about using lesser grade panels, he's really not okay with that. Even if the financial models make sense, that's not the way he likes to do things.
Follow-up, is
Yes.
there a warranty on those panels?
Yes.
If they're grade A? Okay.
Absolutely. There's warranty on the panels, there's warranty on the CHPs, there's warranties on absolutely everything.
Is there any possibility in the future of taking advantage of solar panels that are being made in New York State, in Buffalo, for example?
Could be, depends on how, these solar panels that we're putting in now would not be from Buffalo because the plant is not up and running.
Yeah.
But down the road, if we're doing additional phases, yes, that's definitely an option,
I would presume you're kind of excited about that.
yes. Well, we're
As long as
hoping,
the
we're
quality's
hoping.
there.
Oh, yeah, God, wow,
We
Michael.
hope so.
It's made in New York.
Well, I,
Yes, but it's also made by Solar City, so.
I won't get into the warranty. But clarification.
Yes.
You use the hypothetical of the roof is a leak,
Yes,
and then your guys come in, remove the panels, we do our work, and then you reinstall the panels. Is the manpower of removing and reinstalling our financial burden?
if it's not our fault,
Okay.
we would still be there to
That
support
was
you.
my next question.
Yep,
I was ready with your
exactly.
first
We
one.
take care of
You
anything,
beat
any
me to the
burden
first
that is our, that's our fault. Obviously, if a CHP generator just dies, that's, our equipment has failed, we come in, we fix it.
I saw your question. That answers, thank you.
Okay. Did I catch everything?
No, I think,
Think?
the big difference here is, we didn't talk last time, last year kind of alluded to, the option should basically is giving us, let's do solar for the first year, let's monitor closely what's going on, right? And then next year, let's become basically off the grid, right? So we're learning and installing, right? So that's the big change. Right now, what Bill and I basically have is just a solar component. That's what passed, right? The last time around. When I met with her yesterday, she said, look, it's kind of, choose another word, technical word, right? And it makes no sense, right? One with the other, because the big hit for us, the big reality check, the last time we had a bunch of ships in, was the demand charges. Absolutely killed us. We didn't, we fired up all the equipment, we did, the guys did a brilliant job, we loaded everything else, rah, we were sort of happy, till we got the utility bill.
Right, in all reality, you guys have a blended rate of 10.5 cents right now, so paying 9.5 cents for the solar that we're putting on the roof, you're already saving money. It doesn't do too much to mitigate that demand charge, those big peak spikes. So that's why we want to do the second part. That's why we want to, stay with you, do the analytics, come up with the plan, make something that works for you guys, because it's a much better long-term solution.
And we have to, and the other thing we have to do, we actually have to train staff, not, turn things on and off, bumping things, some are trainable, some are not. Especially guys with mustaches. And we have to be careful, and frankly, I'm surprised what a difference it makes. So now we actually have a rule, don't turn the damn thing off, because it actually impacts us, spikes our demand.
Another question just came up with that. Is there any sort of insurance available for those unexpected, unanticipated demands such as that all of a sudden, to your great shock, you use more energy than you anticipated? Is there
As far as
insurance?
the utility, no, I mean, the utility company, no, but you mean with her system?
No, I was just talking about.
Oh, for us, no, I mean,
No.
I mean, no, there's nothing there. I mean, I knew there was a demand charge, I just didn't know how extensive it was. Because as she correctly points out, they go back for a year and they reassess, readjust, and that's what really hurts. I mean, I mean,
And to that point, so you guys just bought this brand new conveyor, we're gonna put in some solar, which could help take care of some of that. But even this year, as you guys spike your demands, even when we put in the CHP, the utility's still gonna charge you for that demand for another year
Another year.
after that.
and it-
So the sooner we do that, the better, obviously. So,
I mean, our big loads are coming, obviously, and then you'll see some of the budget discussing. That conveyor should be running, if I have my druthers, 6 to 10 times this year. I mean, we are having some major import prospects. And the other thing that we're doing is heating all we're installing all this new rail equipment, all our switches are being heated. So obviously National Grid loves us, right? We're basically heating all the rail. And it has helped us in terms of reliability. We have all this new equipment, and it's better than chopping it up and putting salt on it. It's built, so it has helped us in that regard. But that result is that utility costs are going up.
You're
So
stuck
hence
with
the
that- you're stuck with
mitigation.
that mistake for a year.
So we
Yeah.
are stuck with that for a year because we don't,
Yes.
technically, we don't know what to put in right now.
Yeah.
If we can put too much, we can put too little,
yes.
right? And then what do we do? How do we readjust, right?
And I wanna keep your rate below what you're paying now. If I put in a whole bunch of CHP equipment, obviously the whole rate has to go up to pay for that additional equipment, when it doesn't make any sense. Like you said, we don't know what you actually need now, so we'd be guessing. We'd have to put in smaller equipment than I'm sure that you probably need. So, it just makes more sense to do it this way. And as I said to Zelko, it breaks my heart to only put in solar because it doesn't really solve the problem.
I mean, let it be known, I mean, yes, our utility for kilowatt costs have gone down from 14 cents down to 5.9 cents, whatever it is. I'm still getting killed by transmission and I'm getting destroyed by the demand. Destroyed by the demand. So every time we turn up conveyor, every time we do a bump, I mean, I'm after these guys, I'm after all of them. Shut the lights, keep things down. And National Grid is really giving us the business. I mean, it's impacting us.
Okay, one more question. Assuming our growth is what we anticipate, and you start operating here 24/7, are we gonna be able to meet those demands?
That's what she's alluding to, that because we don't know, I mean, when the ship comes in, the ship is,
I'm talking about ship coming and going out, ship coming and going out, yeah,
that's exactly what
which we
happens.
hope we are.
The ship is roughly almost $2,000 an hour, right? So when the ship owner gives you a ship, he wants it unloaded, he wants it out of here, and consequently loaded and out of here. And we did it. I mean, we did it last year. I mean, everybody worked hard. Everybody, we did it.
Growing things.
Yeah, we did it. We want to do it even better because everything is market driven. We totally I'll take the blame. I totally miscalculated I mean, I had the power charges. I totally miscalculated the demand charges, and I knew they were going to go back and penalize me for the entire year. And then I really was a shock for 2 days. But
Yeah, they're not nice about
no, it's either pay
There's no-
there was no negotiation. I couldn't even
There
negotiate.
you go, yeah.
that, yes. And you can't negotiate the demand rate.
No,
It's,
I
it's
tried.
not
I
negotiable.
mean, I told everybody I could. There was, they told me something about a highway, but it wasn't very pleasant. But it's a new approach. It's something we talked about this initially. We got all kind of confused. We never went anywhere, so we took the solar approach. She kind of had an impact. She explained it this simply. We'll be still under what we're paying now. So our exposure is minimal. She kind of said it, and I'll again reiterate, nothing out of our pocket, right?
Mhm, correct.
It's her taking the risk. She's maintaining this stuff, all that complicated stuff, that's all her problem, right? The only exposure that we have is that roof of ours. And that's what we're gonna be wrestling with her team. On that roof, it's not a new roof, right? But the other consequence is, you gotta do something I mean, this is one element we gotta control as far as competition is concerned. It's only one part of our costs, right? I mean, as we try to get more trade through here, right? And so, I think she did a good job explaining it. I mean, she was blunt, she didn't hide anything. She has to also sell it. It's not that she's gonna be making,
And once again, our roof will handle the load.
yes, I mean, I'm not her saying that, but yes, the engineers already looked at that, yes.
As far as I know, yes, I know that the engineers have been out here and have assessed it.
We had a structural engineering survey done by them and TAG, two companies, and it's perfectly within the range of the systems they want to put up there.
What is the lifetime for solar panels on roofs in Oswego?
I don't know the exact answer to that question.
Several years, quite a bit.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, you know, the way a panel works is you put it up, you know, you put it up
Yeah.
on the roof, and then approximately every year you lose about 0.5% of efficiency. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why the bank needs to put in the little bit of escalators, because the
Yeah.
panels slowly start making stop making energy, and obviously they need to make up for that loss in kilowatt hours with a slightly higher
Yeah.
payment. Otherwise, again, it ends up, the whole project ends up upside down.
And we had a big debate here last meeting. A typical efficiency of a panel is?
About 20-25%, something like that, yeah.
Somebody else had another opinion.
Yes, no, it's not. They used to be about 10, so they're getting close to 30 now. So, you know, like you said, you know, equipment does get better, you know, we're not all the way to the promised land yet, but, you know, before, I mean, a bird, you know, having their way with a panel, an entire panel. They have, you know, improved panels now so that doesn't happen, so, I mean, you know.
Even if it's not on a panel, they will still generate something, providing there's not so much, as long as they see light,
Yes.
they respond to photons.
Is there a limit to how much snow on wheels?
Oh, yeah.
Is that going to impact them in a very negative way?
Well, I mean, it will definitely impact it through the wintertime. You're going to produce a lot less energy because there will be, there's a lot more clouds in the sky, and there's going to be snow up on those panels. Obviously, somebody could go up there and wipe the snow off the panels, but I don't know that anybody necessarily. I have a volunteer!
We'll make 4 holes in the roof.
Mama always said I'd be important someday.
We didn't calculate for him on.
We do that, right.
Wait,
Hey, hey.
put some extra girders up there.
All
Right,
right, so this-
exactly.
I mean, we can discuss it a little more later.
Okay.
We can, any questions? And the important thing is, we're paying less, she's maintaining everything.
Yes.
And that's what I want to mention. The risk is her and the bank. I mean, her, she's got to talk to the bank, right?
Yes.
And,
You know, just assume, think about that we're just kind of like a secondary micro utility. That we're gonna manage all of these things for you, and you're gonna pay us, this, you know, other LLC, for that energy. So, you know, just to put it right in simple terms that, you know, we all pay everything.
So it's no more national grids, has no like ethical, whatever the entity ends up being. All right, guys?
Okay.
Do this,
Well, if you don't do it, then we're just captive for the energy, right? And then we're captive for that, and then we still have those other requirements of, I have to pay, a portion of our power has to be that green power, and that power is even higher. And power is just one component of our costs, right? Not all costs. I mean, I tried to hedge as much as I could. I mean, with other things, and I thought I was being smart, looking at managing the kilowatts. I just cannot manage the demand aspect of it, and I can't control it because the ship comes in and the ship comes in. I mean, so I mean, it's I can do a lot of things, but I cannot tell them hang on for 4 hours because my demand meter is such. Bye.
Well, and you're right, you know, you're gonna be able to, we'll be able to tell you even with the interval meters, technically before next year, that if you guys have a ship coming in, that you guys can turn on this one piece of equipment, because it's every 15 minutes. So you can turn one on this 15 minutes, you can turn this one on, so then half an hour later you go, you can turn on another one, so that your demand isn't going from 0 to 100 in the same 15 minutes.
I'm gonna give another job to the prescriber.
There you go.
No, but that would be exceedingly helpful during the season and when we load, to be able to know when we can phase each conveyor, because we're gonna have 3
Yes.
conveyors at one point
Yes,
loading. So
yes,
knowing when, so we don't hit that,
Because right now, let me tell you, right now the ship comes in, everything's on. Every light we have, every coffee pot we have, everything is on.
I mean, yes, you guys can manage that differently. If you know, I see the ship coming,
Yeah.
and you can flick the first switch and start it there, and then, and stage it out, so that, like I said,
Oh, yeah. So that's something, that's another good idea, I'm gonna put that into a contract. All right,
Okay, we happy?
thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so,
I just didn't want everybody turning back on it.
no, that's okay.
I'll pack up and move.
No,
You guys can do your thing.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Anything else on your minds before having these? Okay. Item 2 on the agenda, actually, item 3 on the agenda is the approval of the fiscal year 2016-17 annual operating budget, which is Exhibit A. And Delco is going to do a presentation of Exhibit A.
Yeah, I mean, basically what I can tell you, and there's a lot of numbers in front of you, I mean, as you know, I presented a rather optimistic budget last year. I'm here to report to you that we have made it extremely close. I think we projected 5.678, we're reporting 5.48, which is, it's pretty decent in its percentage points. And we did it through aluminum, we did it through some unconventional work with the rock contractor that we have. We did it through some unconventional, we chased a lot of business down. As you recall, we almost owned a ship, we didn't want it. And we owned a lot of things that we were out there chasing business. I mean, we want to do the same thing this year. I had a conversation with Jim just before. There's certain things that are still unclear this year. One thing that is rather clear is the grain business increasing, and the grain business is going to increase tremendous amount of percentage points, mainly due to the economic situation between Canada and the United States and the exchange rates. So, in fact, our first ship will be a grain ship, and we anticipate. I'm trying to nail the ships down, but it's rather early in the season. We should have over half a dozen boats this year. And we're looking to be a major supplier of imported corn for the ethanol market.
Half dozen grain boats?
So that's a major new business. One thing that still eludes me is the aluminum business. And it's not so much our issue, it's as so much as the aluminum supplier issue. It's we had a record aluminum last year. The plant is actually operating on 3 lines, but as the plant operates, so has the supply competition. The supply competition has increased as well. So we're chasing down more rail cars. We don't have as many rail cars this year as we had last year. We're also chasing down we're competing with trucks, and we're competing with rail. So I have not been able to firm up the contract with the Canadian importers. We're trading phone calls, I made some estimates. So I can tell you I'm taking some chances in that area, and I don't have that nailed down. But I know the demand is going to be there. The plant is going to get its raw material. It's just how they're going to get it. I can tell you it's extremely competitive. I mean, as all businesses are, we're talking cents, and I can lose a deal for $1. That's how sensitive it is. It's and frankly, Novalis is in the position to pick it. I am talking to a whole bunch of other businesses. I mean, I have a number of things on the horizon. Being that the press is in the room, I'm going to say everything. But the things are looking very positive for this year. In projection for next year, I think I can be conservative and make it as good as this year. I'm hoping to do a lot more, but there are certain unknowns. I have to get the market competition down pat. The guys have been, I'll say guys, the staff has been great. It's just every time we up the ante, they want more. It's this insatiable appetite of wanting more. And the demand is definitely here. We've been exporting all over the U.S. I see that market growing. I am talking to some other U.S. suppliers, other U.S. manufacturers, and I haven't accounted for that in the budget. I have zeroed those out because I don't have 100% confidence we're going to close this year. The things I did account for the budget is the closure of certain properties, which may occur even this year. So you're going to see some shedding of certain fiscal resources that are not required. So I'm going to shed certain properties that are not required, and I'm not shedding them. I'm actually turning them into a positive purpose, i.e., the price chopper lot into an incubator site, which is a great benefit for us and the community. Since I've been using it for a totally different purpose, if somebody can use it and make something out of it, develop jobs, I'm all for it. And we are talking to the local entity. I think that's a great use. I mean, the use that I'm going to give it, it's going to be limited. I don't see us investing very heavily in that area, perhaps another 3 or 4 years. If somebody else can do it and get jobs into this community, it's awesome. And we have assurances that that's what it's going to occur. It's going to occur rather rapidly. That's great news for the community. So you can see some jobs there. And same thing with some of our properties that are in disrepair. So rather than hanging on to something for 5, 10 years, not doing anything with it, I'd rather turn it into a better use and then reassess the situation down the road. So you can see some real estate development in that terms. I am chasing some other commodities. I see salt being a lot higher next year. I saw salt being very high this year. I still have some of it. If you want some, we can give you some. Winter's not over yet. I see a lot of work. In fact, I'll urge you when you leave this facility, a lot of work in our marina. Our marina is highly profitable. We have done a lot of work in terms of reinforcing riprap. You will see a lot of concrete work down there. You will see a lot of improvement in that area, and you will see a lot of potential. I'm in discussions with some folks doing some major renovations to that area. So you can see a lot more activity on this side of the river. Very positive for the citizens on this side of the river. At this time, and I don't want to be elusive. It's just a degree of confidence, right? I'm presenting you, proposing that this year's budget be the same as last year. However, I don't have all the information in front of me, so I do have some reservations, but we'll definitely try. If anything, we'll probably exceed it, having our history. We are going to attempt to control the costs better. We have to, in order to maintain, to be in business. down to the small things. We do have one major capital improvement left, which is all the rails. We pretty much improved pretty much everything since I've been here, right? So hopefully, we have to replace all the rails on this side of the compound. We are in for some major grants on our remote facility. I heard very positive things. So we may be starting the second compound, second warehousing, and I'm in discussion with certain entities about leasing our warehouse. So there may be some really pleasant surprises. I'd rather leave them at that than give you specific names. I'd be premature, it'd be unprofessional for me to include them in here, but I don't have a high degree of confidence, assurance. Unless it's 90% or better, I'm not gonna put it in the budget.
Okay, fair.
Fair enough.
Listen, we've seldomly put it into a little difficult position this year. We've discovered that the proposed budget that is for next fiscal year has to be sent to New York State
We better earlier.
earlier than anticipated.
Better late than never.
We have always basically approved our budget in the last meeting of the year,
Yeah.
which has been very close to the end of the month rather than the middle of the month. But that's not a possibility this year. We have to have the budget in our hand sooner. So I was surprised last year at the proposed budget. If you called it up, was proposing something like $5.6 million. And our previous best year ever was the previous year, last year. It was 4.9 million, and I thought, well, that's pretty bold. Yeah, I think that's I didn't want to make it be a negative word, bold. Yeah. Pretty bold projection. And we, before this month is over, we still have another couple of weeks before we can get some additional revenues coming in. He is approximately $100,000 on the actual revenue below that projection, which I thought was bold. So boldness paid off this year, and we did not expect it that he would have to project this a week or two earlier than anticipated. So he may be off a little bit, but and if you notice, he's actually looking at something somewhat less, and I assured him that these were snapshots in time. You don't know what your projections are going to actually result in for a year. He could exceed what he's projecting. He might not get what he's projecting, but it's not an issue for the port. It's a snapshot in a continuing period of time. You take a picture this day, and this is what it's like. And if it's off a little bit from what you projected, well, it's not something that's a great consequence to the port unless he's really off and we're going to be sinking. That's not the case. I mean, the port is growing and getting better and better. And when you're in an expansive mode of operation, it's a little bit more challenging to try to project exactly where you're going to be a year from now when you've got all sorts of things happening from a variety of sources that are melding into what will actually be occurring for next year. So I think this is about as close as he can project it this time. And so I would recommend that we approve it, just to be on
And just
the safe side.
just to in turn, put it rather succinctly. I mean, the big impact, I don't think many people in this room realize, the pilots are looking for a major increase. I spent 2 hours on the phone call this morning. I was literally walking the walls, right? And that goes against all the marketing, all the efforts I've been doing. Because now all of a sudden, everybody's, I mean, we're already looking at dollars, and now they're looking for doubling their salary, right?
I raised this question before. Does everybody know what the pilots do?
Yeah.
The pilots, when the vessel comes into the Great Lakes St. Lawrence system, the captain of the vessel has to turn the vessel over to an approved pilot. He knows that. I don't know if there are female pilots, there probably are, but I just don't know. The pilot has to go into the pilot house, which is normally occupied by the captain of the vessel or his designee, and he now is running the ship. If he runs it aground, he's at fault, not the captain.
Who do these guys work for?
They work for themselves.
Right.
There's a requirement that the ships coming through a system like this there has to be some surety to the people who are running the system, that whoever's there, ship with the vessel knows what he's doing, and knows where the low spots are, knows where the rocks are, knows where the grounding sites are, and avoids them. These pilots are very, very knowledgeable about the waterways.
Have we had any problems?
Oh, no, we had no problems, it's just economic, I mean, who can afford it,
They
right?
want more money.
So what choice? You have to use them.
You have to use them, so you have to come, the Great Lakes St. Lawrence system has to come to agreement with the Pilots Association.
But right now, we're in the process of disagreement, and these folks are not cheap. I
This is
mean,
not just here, this is all
All
over.
over.
Even the Navy has to have pilots. The very last time they
Yeah,
ships.
exactly.
But the Navy pilots will make half a million a year.
I don't know.
So anyway, so there's a negotiation going on right now in the Great Lakes St. Lawrence system. Not sure exactly what the pilot costs are going to be this year, until they come to the final approval.
So that's one of the elements that's unknown, that's one of the elements that frankly impacts aluminum, right? Because then it becomes too expensive to ship aluminum, right? Or go by rail,
Or by truck.
or by truck. Right, so it doesn't look like it, I mean, the contracts are such, I mean, I think they'll be okay with aluminum, I'm just worried about the following years, the outer years. I think we'll work it out, I mean, it was just, as the chairman said, this budget cycle just kinda, I mean, I burned up the phone the last couple of days just trying to get all this information in here. I just don't have enough time, and so by being that the cycle is such, I did the best I could, and we'll look by the report on it.
And then at the end of each fiscal year, we have our auditors go through and check every single record, every cost, every expense, every dollar spent, and we get a professional assessment. That's why we have an auditing firm to check all the records that are kept, and we have to keep records, Zelco's offsets keep records of everything, and those are gone through very thoroughly. Costs us $25,000 or so just to have that done. But that's also required if you want to keep track of what's happening.
So are we to approve this now?
That would be the
Okay.
Otherwise, those guys.
You have a motion, you have a resolution?
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
Yes.
The deputy executive director, you actually don't have, it's a projection, right? It's not budgeted in. And last page, our administration services, 80,000.
That's, no, that's, I use subscriber for that.
That's Scriber, okay. That's his title? Okay. Call it whatever you want.
Yeah, it's probably not. You can call the doors, I'll tell
It's
you.
not, it's not deputy.
Right here, in front of the page.
Oh, yeah, yes, but I mean, was there, you didn't have anything written down.
No, it's just
Was that?
motion to
It's
accept.
it's a position that also.
Okay. I just hadn't seen one, but,
Yeah.
so I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, it's just so approval
So
of.
motion's in order to approve Exhibit A, the proposed 2016-17 annual operating budget. Motion 03-16-1601S.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Coates. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. It's unanimous of the whole board. There's item 4 on the agenda is discuss and approve an amendment to the Enteco agreement.
Want to go into executive session?
Yeah, could you just give us a moment, let's go to executive session, talk about it, then we can vote around thereafter.
Motion is in order to move into executive session for the purpose of negotiations.
That's 303-16-1604S.
Yes.
Gary, do you move it?
Yes, I'm in. I'll second it.
Now, Mr. Chairman, all in favor of moving into executive
I'll
session?
give you some
Aye.
information on that.
Opposed?
Yeah, just before we go.
So,
No, I got it.
executive session, I'm not right about it,
Make a motion to resume regular session?
Are we on? Yes. Motion's in order to resume regular session.
Second.
Mr. Coles, Mr. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in regular session. So,
All right, so before you have the ethical amendment, and so far, one of the questions the attorney has is, so far we have just completed the solar component of that ethical agreement. The agreement is in the state negotiations. Entico / other entity is shopping it basically, and we will meet as soon as they're finished. The idea is basically the ball's in their court. I mean, I like to get this thing sold this year, right? I want it sold this year.
One question, so the amendment isn't particularly described in our motion?
I have the solar amendment, I can
Okay.
attach that.
The
and
solar.
then- And then if you guys pass this other amendment, I'll include the power generation as part of the amendment.
because we'll come back for a final approval.
It'll come out.
Right, yeah.
So make that, include that in the amendment, or in the motion. Motion is to approve the
I
amendment.
think, would you?
Oh, yeah, I had one small question for you.
I'm sorry. They asked me, I didn't know, so.
Yes, excuse me, Jerry.
Acts of God, concerning the
System.
system on the
solar
roof.
system, yeah.
How is that covered?
It's covered, I mean, essentially that's, that's part of the insurance on the,
And you carry the insurance?
Gets struck by lightning and blows up.
yes.
Wind.
So, yes,
Wind
and-
damage, so forth? Because we
Yes.
get some heavy wind here off the lake.
Yes, it goes back to the warranty, all of those things are insured and warranted, and, all of the structure, the actual racking that holds, all of the solar panels, all of that is under warranty as well. So if something fails due to, high winds and things like that,
Okay.
then it's covered under warranty.
Well, good. Thank you.
And then going back to the same question that we had before about, what happens, if something like that happens and there's no, we are not, we're not producing, then essentially the payment, it's just like a car lease or car payment. If you can't pay for whatever reason, if there's non-performance, then that payment just gets added to the end. So, so we have the risk and what happens to the money.
And one of the things that we were elaborating, right, we have all the generation equipment, I mean, we have to service the ship, right? If something fails, what happens then? There's penalties, it doesn't do the contract.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna revise that, it's gonna authorize the executive director to enter into discussions to amend the Entico agreement.
You can do the power generation and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right? Mr. Gillen, is there a second?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Coates? Any further discussion? This will be coming back for final approval.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is passed.
You're voting in
I'll vote.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you got that.
We have, the chairman doesn't normally vote
Right.
unless to break a tie or make a tie. But we have a
Few members.
few members missing, so that just makes it stronger. So I will vote yes. So it's a unanimous. Okay?
So now we have the second motion.
Motion 03-16-1603S to extend the closing date on the purchase of 91 Mitchell Street property to PCL Properties, Inc. to April, by 5 PM on April 8th, 2016.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Brown, second, Mr. Coates, any further discussion?
What happens after April 8th?
Then we're
It's
on the market selling it again. I
You're
guess.
extending the
Closing date.
the closing date.
What if we don't get to it by April 8th? What if it doesn't close? Then what?
I thought,
It's over.
then it reverts to the penalty where we
Evict.
evict, we
Right.
start moving for eviction.
Ah.
I will have another emergency board meeting.
Extend it again, or?
April 8th,
Yeah, if it doesn't close by April 8th,
Okay.
I think
So
we're back on
no.
the market.
yeah, that's it, that's the point. We're just extending the.
Right, I understand. I
penalty
just want to know
for
what
that,
happens
then
if it
not
doesn't
closing.
happen.
And that was based upon my discussions with all the attorneys and the banks
I know,
today.
attorneys are.
Yeah,
That's it, that was good. So-
and bank office.
That was good that you clarified exactly what we're talking about. We're just extending the current penalty if they don't close. Okay.
That's what it was.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous for.
Motion to adjourn.
There's no other item before the vote. Any question? Motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Dillon, Mr. Coates? Not debatable, all in favor?
That's it, 45 minutes, right?
Oh, so far, it's a- it's a yes.